Actually, welcome to session 2 and lesson challenges in improving agricultural products. Right? So if we carefully observe this graph, on x-axis we can find months, that is from January to December, and on y we can find the amount of water that is evaporated, right, in the millimeters. So if we carefully observe this, so where we can find more evaporation, that means here at this point, that means which months they are, that means they are March and April. You know, March and April means that's the summer season, and in summer we can find a very high temperature, and that's why automatically we can find a more rate of evaporation, right? And what's the next question? So how does the availability of more water affect the plant? So most of the farmers, they think that if we supply more water, then the plant growth will be more, but that is not correct. So if we supply more and more water than the sufficient, than the requirement, then what it means, so all this excess water, they seep into the soil, they sink into the soil, and see that soil will be filled with the water. So then what means, then the roots are unable to respire, and even they cannot get their gases. Okay, that's why. So they could not able to release energy, and that's why they simply die. That means we can find that root system will be totally destroyed. Okay, so when root system destroyed, then automatically the plant also dies. Okay, that's why it is not better to supply more than required amounts of water to the plant. Okay, we must know, being as a farmer, he must know how much amount of water the plant needs. Okay, that's why we need to supply only that is sufficient or the required amounts of water. Clear? Right. Then here, you know, if you carefully observe this picture, this is not at all new to you. And what is this picture? Yeah, this is called stomata, and where you can find this, yeah, this can be seen over the leaves. Okay, and here these stomata are usual for the water activities. Yeah, we can say for exchange of gases. You know, through the nose, what we're doing continuously from even before we born to few seconds before we die, continuously we're doing one thing. What is that? That is exchange of gases. We are taking in oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. In the same way, plants also exchange the gases. They take in oxygen and release the carbon dioxide at the time of respiration, and during a photosynthesis, they take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen. Right? Okay, and through these openings, one more process also takes place. Already in the last session, we learned about transpiration. Transpiration means when we supply the water, how much amount of water the plant has. In that, very less amount of water, that is 0.1% of water, is used by the plant body, and the remaining 99% of water will be eliminated or transpirated. Okay, so this transpiration and the exchange of gases takes place through this stomata, right? So more water evaporates when the weather is hot. Just in here in the map, I told you that, so during the months of say this March and April, we can find more evaporation. Why means there we can find a high temperature. So when the weather is hot at the time, stomata, that means automatically, see, this rate of transpiration increases. So the plant has to remove more and more amount of water. So in order to avoid this, what happens means this stomata begin to close. Stomata begin to close. Then what happens? Then automatically the rate of transpiration will be decreased. So when stomata decreases, see here, you can find the difference. This is the stomata in an open condition. Here, have you seen this? At the center, we can find an opening. What do you call that opening? Yes, stoma. And here, this is a closed one. Okay. So, when now weather is hot, then automatically this stomata becomes like this. That means it closes. So, when it closes, evaporation decreases. But at the same time, this exchange of gases also decreases a little bit. Not completely stopped, but decreases. Okay, then automatically see this rate of photosynthesis, all these things will be what? Will be decreased. Got it? Okay. So in this way, this stomata plays very important role in the process, like exchange of gases, then rate of transpiration, all these things, right? Then the next one, now and then you may observe the farmers that are supplying, farmers that are providing this fertilizer. Have you seen? Yeah. If you carefully observe this picture, here see, over this picture we can find a NPK. What is that? NPK? Yeah. N for nitrogen and P for a phosphorus and a K for a potassium. So if you carefully observe this fertilizer, whether it is present as a liquid or a solid. Yes, solid. That means as a crystals. So when the farmers supply the water, this fertilizer, then can you say that the plant will utilize that fertilizer? No, it don't have any mouth like animals, like humans, so that it cannot eat up that fertilizer. So how the plant can get this fertilizer? Means by dissolving in water. Okay, that's why you have seen that. So once the farmer supply this fertilizer, immediately what he do? He supply water. He provide water to the field. So that what means all these fertilizers or nutrients will dissolve in water. And so when water is absorbed by the roots, then along with the water, these nutrients also taken up by the root. Okay. In this way, the water plays very important role in supplying fertilizers or we can say nutrients to the plants. But the plant alone cannot get these nutrients directly from the soil. It is only with the help of water. Right? So whenever we cultivate the plants like paddy, the next wheat and sugarcane, so these three varieties of crops, they need a richer source of water, Have you seen this rice crop? In a rice crop, always we need to supply more and more water. That means the field is flooded. That means the plants are submerged in water. Have you seen? That means they always need more and more amount of water. Okay, but when we cultivate this variety of crops under the wells, wells means well means it is we can say a large pit and in which water is oozing out. Correct. So under well means that means less amount of water we can say. Okay. So generally, if you carefully observe the route between RTPB to this Pradhutur on either side of the road, we can find many fields and which crop most of the farmers are cultivating? Yeah, rice. Throughout the year, how many crops they are growing? So they go on cultivating only rice. Why? Why they are cultivating only rice? Because of its a supporting price and also marketing facilities. There is a great demand for the rice in today's world. Okay, that's why most of the farmers, they are cultivating this rice irrespective of proper availability of water. Even though they don't have a proper water facilities, what they do? They go for rice. Okay, in such case, say for example, they have which type of water resource means only the well. Okay, then what happens? Then ultimately they need to invest. They need to spend more and more money on irrigation. Irrigation means for for motors, and the next for a pump set for this, and even to supply the water they need to invest more money, and so that ultimately they get more and more electricity bills, and even they need to spend more money on pesticides and fertilizers. Okay, then what happens? Because of all these things, ultimately, see, this investment increases, so ultimately the cost of the product also increases. Okay, that's right. So before we start this cultivation of rice or wheat or sugarcane, we should see whether we have proper water facilities to cultivate them or not. Even without proper water facilities, if you go for the same, then what happens? Then ultimately, see, this investment increases, and so the farmer has to go for more and more loans and all these things. Okay, and that leads to several complications, right? And that's why you see this agriculture officers, they advise the farmers to cultivate dryland crops. Dryland crops means they require very less amount of water. And in Telugu we call them as a Arutadi Pantalu. Okay, so here why they advise means, as the most of the farmers are not having a proper water resources. Okay, so whatever the water resources we have, depending on that, the farmer has to decide which crop he has to grow, he has to cultivate. Okay, and even so, we need to go for the different water management practices. Now, if you observe roadside on either side of the road, in some other fields. Now, have you seen this chini tota, right? If you carefully observe this orchard, so inside that we can find some pipes. Have you seen black colored pipes? So what are those pipes? Those pipes belong to a special water management system, and we call that as what do you call that? Drip irrigation. Even, have you seen in our school also we have a good plantation, and our principals are also arranged drip irrigation. Have you seen this black colored pipes in our school also, in our school garden? Yeah, what is that? So what is the reason that? So with the help of that pipe, water can be supplied to the plants. How? That means drop by drop. So that is the advantage of this drip irrigation. By using drip irrigation, we can supply the water drop by drop, so that there will be no wastage of water. Okay, about this drip irrigation we can deal in the coming sessions. And there is one more method which can be called as sprinkler irrigation. Have you seen our hospital? In a hospital we have the garden, and even in a hostel also we have the garden. Okay, now and then you have seen that. That means how they are supplying the water to this garden. Have you seen? The water is sprinkling in the form of small droplets, just like a rain. Have you seen that? Yeah. What do you call that? That is called as sprinkler irrigation. So both sprinkler irrigation and the drip irrigation together called as a micro irrigation. Got it? So that is called as a proper water management practices. Right? So in this way, whenever we go for this Arutadi Pantalu or water management practices, then ultimately the farmer will get more and more profits. Okay, so in the drip irrigation, water is supplied by how water is supplied by drop. Correct. Okay, so plant nutrients. Daily our mother prepares different varieties of food materials. Nutritious food. Nutritious. What is meant by nutritious? Don't think that delicious, tasty. What is meant by nutritious means the food which contains all the types of nutrients like carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, minerals, fibers, all these things. Okay, but don't think that nutritious means tasty, delicious like this. Correct. In the same way, plants also require different types of nutrients. Okay, just like we need carbohydrates, proteins, fats like this, plants also need different types of nutrients. Okay, and how they get them means, they absorb carbon dioxide. Already we learned this. Okay, how they get carbon dioxide? They get carbon dioxide from air. Carbon dioxide from air, that is from atmosphere, and then water. From where they get the water? They get the water from the soil, and then they produce the carbohydrates. They produce the carbohydrates with the help of what? With the help of sunlight. And what do you call that process? Yeah, that process can be called as a photosynthesis. That is called a photosynthesis. Correct. Okay. Just now I told, see, these plants need different types of nutrients. Okay. So when you take carbohydrates, proteins, fats, can you say that you need all these nutrients in the same quantity? No. We need carbohydrates and proteins in a large amounts, and in the same way fats are needed in a less amount. Okay, even in the same way vitamins and minerals in a less amount. Correct. So just like that, these plants also need some other nutrients in a large amounts and some in less amounts. Okay, so when you take these nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, these three are needed by the plants in large amounts. Some of the salts are required in large amounts. So what do you call them? Means we call them as macronutrients. Macro, what is meant by macro? Macro means large. Correct. So what are the examples for them? Nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. Have you seen this fertilizer bag? Over the fertilizer bag, you can find three numbers. Like 40 is to 35 is to 40, like this. What is that? Yeah, we call that as a NPK ratio. NPK. That means first number indicates nitrogen percentage, and the second number phosphorus, and third number potassium. Correct. So what do you call that number? That is called as a NPK ratio. Correct. Okay. And in the same way, some of the salts or some of the nutrients are needed in less amounts, in lesser or small quantities. So what do you call them? We call them as a micro. Micro means what? Micro means less or small. Okay. So microorganisms means small organisms. In the same way, these nutrients are needed in less quantity. Okay, that's why we call them as micronutrients. Okay, so what are the examples? Fe means iron, then manganese, boron, zinc, copper, molybdenum, chlorine, like this. Okay, right? So these are the two types of nutrients needed by the plants. So macro and micro. Correct. So here clearly observe this table. So if you carefully observe this table, you get some information. What is the type of the crop? Then yield per hectare. Then nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. That means when you take a rice crop, how much amount of nitrogen this rice crop use up, and then phosphorus, potassium, like this. For example, take this rice. Rice needs how much amount of nitrogen? There is a 34%, 22% is of phosphorus, and 67% of potassium. Correct. In the same way, if you take millets need, see this one, millets need 56% of nitrogen, then a 15% of phosphorus, and a 146 percentage of potassium. Got it? So in this way, different types of plants, they utilize different quantities of this nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. But we cannot say that. Okay, for example, take your family members. Okay, your father, your mother, then you and your younger brother. So if you carefully observe your four members, can you say that your four members will eat same quantity of food? No. Okay, if you who will take a more amount of food? Your father. Why means your father is elder, and then he needs more energy, and that's why he takes more food. Okay, then followed by your mother. Okay, then you, and then your younger brother. Your younger brother, as he is a small kid, he takes less amount of food. Okay, so just like our family members here, there's different types of plants also take different quantities of these nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Got it? Yeah. Then soil nutrients. For example, there is a rice bag in your family, in your home. So think that daily your mother is using 2 kgs of rice per day, right? So your father bought 50 kgs of rice bag. Okay. So if your mother daily uses 2 kgs of rice, then for how many days that bag can be used? For 25 days. For 25 days. Okay. As the days are going on, can you find the same amount of rice in the bag? No. The quantity of rice in the bag becomes less and less. In the same way, just like this rice bag, inside the soil also we can find all these nutrients. Okay. So whenever the farmer is growing the crop in the soil, in the field, then what the plants do? The plants will utilize the salts or nutrients, okay, from the soil. So when one crop is over, then some salts are used up by the crop, okay, by the next crop. So for the next season, can you find the same quantity or the same amount of nutrients in the soil? No. Here somewhat less. Okay, in this way, as we're going on cultivating the crops, then what happens? That means the amount of nutrients in the soil becomes less and less, and finally what happens? All the nutrients will be exhausted. Exhausted means they are completely used up. Now the soil becomes useless, or then we call that a soil as a barren. That means useless. No plants can be grown there. Why? Means no salts are present in that. Okay, that's why what the farmers do? For every crop they add what? They add serious fertilizers. Actually, here we can find the continuous process of death and decay and nutrients to the soil. Okay, so here when the plant is growing in the soil, so it uses up some amounts of nutrients. But in the same way, when the plant shut down, the plant pots, like say this leaves, then the flowers, fruits like this, they fall down over the soil, and then they get what happens? They decompose. So decompose means what? That means by decomposition, all these waste materials are converted into manure. In this way, so whatever the salts are taken by the plant, again the salts are added to the soil by decomposition of plant materials and even by animal materials. Animal materials means like a dung of animals, and the next dead bodies of animals like this. Correct. But it is very slow process. It is a slow process. Okay, that's why what the farmers do. So as the farmers need a large amount of nutrients within a short period in the soil, what they do, that means they go for the artificial methods. Artificial methods. What are artificial methods? That means in that they add what? They add organic manure. Organic manure means which is made from plant and animal materials. Okay, or artificial fertilizers. Artificial fertilizers means, okay, just now I told you, say this fertilizers like with the NPK ratio like this. Okay, and even there is one more method which can be called as rotating crops. Rotating crops, or we can say crop rotation method. Crop rotation method. So these are the three methods by which we can replenish the soil with the nutrients. Replenish means adding back these nutrients to the soil, right? Okay, now see the first one, that is a crop rotation. Already you studied about this crop rotation in 8th class. So what is this means? According to this method, say for example, now the farmer is growing rice. Okay, so within 3 or 4 months, rice crop gets harvested. It's over. It's a crop is over. Then in the next season after the rice, the farmer should not grow the same rice. Okay, but instead of rice, he can go for another one. That means, say for example, groundnut. And even when the groundnut over, again he may go for rice or any other crop. Alright. So here, what is the first crop? Rice. And the second crop, there is a groundnut. And again, third crop, it may be rice or some other. Correct. So if you carefully observe this pattern here, continuously the farmer is not growing the same crop in the same field. Correct. So that method can be called as a crop rotation. That is called a crop rotation or a rotation of crops. So here farmers do not grow only one type of crop in the field, but different crops and in different seasons. Different seasons means one after the other. Okay, right? So actually cereal crops need a lot of nutrients from our soil. Cereal crops means like say this rice, then wheat, like these things, right? So they need more amounts of nutrients from the soil, while legumes they need a less amount of nutrients. Legumes, yeah, even you got this in your 8th class, I think. So if you carefully observe the root system of this groundnut or beans and peas like this, what can you find anything? Yeah, you can find round ball-like structures over the roots. What do you call them? Yeah, we call them as root nodules. And inside the root nodules, we can find a bacteria. What is that? A rhizobium or the Rhizobium leguminosarum. Right? So this bacteria has the capacity to use atmospheric nitrogen and converts that into nitrogen compounds like nitrites and nitrates. And supply them to the soil. So when the farmer grow this cereal crops, only nutrients are used up by the plant. But if he grow these legumes, the legumes they absorb, they use up nutrients from the soil, and at the same time they again add nutrients to the soil. Correct. So that's why it is good. It is a very good method to grow leguminous crop between a cereal crop. Okay. So now and then you can find here. So what we call that method means we call that as a mixed crop. So when we are growing two types of crops in the same field in the same time, then we call that as a mixed crop. or even in a crop rotation method also we can go for the legumes. Rice one time, and after the rice we have to go for say this groundnut. Correct. So what is the example for this crop rotation method means? For example, take this paddy. After paddy, you can the farmer can grow this black gram, and after tobacco, this mirchi, and after red gram, say this paddy. After red gram, paddy. Got it? Now here you can find the table, and by observing this table, you can find out what is the use of these nutrients to the soil. So, for example, take this nitrogen. Nitrogen is responsible for the development of new leaves, flowers arises fast. Okay, leaves, new leaves develop. What is the use of leaf? When the leaves are more, then automatically rate of photosynthesis increases. When more photosynthesis occurs, more food is produced. So the farmer will get more profit. Okay, and even flowers arise fast. What is the use of flowers? You know, after pollination and fertilization, flowers gets converted into fruit. That means we get food, like this. And then a phosphorus. Phosphorus, it helps in penetrates roots deep into the soil to absorb nutrients quickly. Because of this phosphorus, roots can go deep into the soil so that plant can absorb more water and more nutrients. Okay? And the potassium, resistance towards pest. Resistance means disease resistance capacity. The plants will not get a disease or infections because of this potassium, and then increases the quality of a smell, color and taste. For example, when you go to the market to purchase some mangoes, what do? Will you blindly will you blindly take some other mangoes? No. First, you select the mangoes depending upon their color, which are in orange color or which are in yellow color, like this, reddish yellow color, like this. And even you also observe the smell. You smell that whether they are giving a sweet smell or not. Okay, and even the taste. Okay, all these properties are because of what? Because of this nutrient that is called potassium. There is a potassium, right? Then cultivating mixed crops. Already we learned mixed. Mixed means what? You know, have you seen this salad, vegetable salad, or a green salad, or a fruit salad, like this? Fruit salad. What is meant by fruit salad? There we select different varieties of fruits, and then we cut them into pieces. So here we are using only one variety of fruit or many varieties? Yeah, many. So we are mixing. In the same way here also, when the farmer grow more than one type of crop, in the same field, in the same time, then we call that as a mixed crop. Say for example, there is maize, along with the maize, red gram, and the next cotton, along with the cotton, groundnut. That means cotton will be grown in one row, and in the next row, groundnut, and again cotton, and then groundnut, like that. And in the same way, here these are all examples. That is soya, and then a pea, the next corn, black gram, groundnut, sunflower, like this. Correct. So what is the use of this mixed cropping? Means here the soil becomes rich. Now one crop, say for example, when we take this example, that is a cotton. So cotton, it is a non-leguminous plant, so it absorbs nutrients. But what about groundnut? Groundnut will add nutrients. Okay, so that there will be balance. There will be balance of nutrients in the soil. Okay, that's why. So it is better to go for the mixed cropping. So pulses and the cereals are grown as mixed cropping. This is also one more example, right? And the short-term crops with the long-term crops. All these are to be examples. In a fruit yielding fields, along with the fruit plants, we can grow this pulses. right? These are all examples for mixed crops. Have you seen this beetle crop? Beetle. There is a tamlapaku. Can you call that as a mixed crop or not? No, it's not a mixed crop. Okay, but have you seen this beetle? It is a creeper. It is a creeper. So just for support, we grow some other plants, but not we cannot consider this as a mixed crop. Just for support. Okay, even without that other plants, we can grow this beetle. That means by giving the support in the form of threads or wires like this. Okay, right? So from this we can say that this beetle is not an example for a mixed crop, right? And with this we come to the end of this session. Have a nice day. Thank you.